Coming Home, a podcast with Lane Kennedy. Welcome back. Hi, everyone. It's Lane Kennedy, and I am super excited, as always, to be with another amazing guest in this little mini series that I'm doing all about consciousness and Yoga Nidra. Yay! And today I have a very dear friend of mine, Elsa Korinke of Elsa's Offerings. And yet again, another sister that I met in my Yoga Nidra training. I'm really excited to kind of dig into her story and what she's about. Welcome to the show, Elsa.
Thank you so much, Lane. Really excited to be here. Really excited to reconnect with you after training.
I know. So good. So good. I love that you are out in the world doing what you do. And one of the things, I have this love-hate relationship with Instagram. But the thing that I love most about it right now is being able to watch people's lives unfold and blossom. And that's what I'm watching with you. It's so cool. So cool. It's epic.
I totally agree. I feel the same way about you and just other people from the training. And, there were people from all over the world in that training. So seeing sort of where they're bringing this practice and how they're presenting it and stuff like that has been really cool. But I hear you about the love-hate with the gram.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have to be on there, but you don't have to be on there, but you want to be on there. That's what I've recently found myself. Like, I just want to be there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, no, get off. Okay, I digress into social media. So I want to get into Yoga Nidra, right? Like, that's one of the reasons why I'm having this mini series, is to really share with the listeners about this practice. Because so many times I get this like dumb look, like, what are you talking about? When I tell them that I'm a Yoga Nidra guide. And then they also like say, well, what is that? And they also say, well, I don't need to do that. I hear that a lot. Like, no, I don't need to do that. I already have a hatha or a vinyasa, practice. And I'm like, but you don't understand. Yeah. So I want you to share with our listeners how you found your Yoga Nidra practice.
Totally. So Yoga Nidra began for me in the fall of 2016. I had taken a long break off of, from college, and I went back to USC fall semester of 2016. And I just found myself in a new level of exhaustion that I hadn't experienced in a really long time. And I had previously given up caffeine, and I knew I didn't want to reintroduce that into my life and stuff like that. And, I had been exposed to meditation kind of on and off and tried different types, but nothing like really stuck. And I was just on Insight Timer, the, free, wonderful meditation app. And I just searched something along the lines of meditation for deep relaxation or something. And a Yoga Nidra practice came up. And it actually wasn't Jana's. I know she has some on there, but it was about 25 minutes long Yoga Nidra practice. And I remember laying down and doing the practice and waking up after the 25 minutes and really having no idea if I was awake or asleep or what had happened. Yep. But just feeling deeply rested and rejuvenated. And I stuck with that particular Nidra for quite a while because it was kind of the perfect length of time, just about 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I do remember I would go in and out of the practice, and sometimes I'd sort of come to during the rapid visualization and be like, what the heck is this? Like, a deer jumping, a rabbit running, or like whatever, all these things. And I'm like, what is going on here? The feeling that I had after doing that practice was perfect. And, because I was always afraid that if I would take a full-on nap, I would wake up 4 hours later and not get anything done. But it was just kind of the perfect 25 minutes. I would get what I needed and then be able to, and I did this Nidra all over USC, like in the library, in the student lounge, like in a classroom, like everywhere. Anywhere I could lay down. And so I kind of stuck with it for a while, and then it kind of left me a little bit again, but I would come back to it sort of in pivotal points where I really needed like deep restoration. And then in the beginning of 2018, I met Ashley. Well, I'd kind of known her before, but I met her on a deeper level. And she had done all the trainings with Jana, and I was entering my first yin yoga teacher training at the time and sort of wanting to pursue the yoga world. And she and I got close, and she would sometimes sub Jana's classes, and I would just go to support a friend, like, this is my sister, and you're teaching this class, and I would go and support her. And it was one of her nidras, actually. Like, it was a full-on, like, 45-minute to an hour practice, which was the first time I was awake the whole time, and I heard every single part of it. And I felt inwardly rearranged. I really got every single little piece of the practice. And so I started asking her a lot more questions about it. And she explained to me the Sankalpa and sort of some tidbits of what's really going on. And then I started going to her class every time she would do it. I started looking more into them on Insight Timer, and I really dove into the practice. And then I knew I wanted to train with Jana, and Ashley introduced me. And so I stalked Jana's website literally like day after day. I would check because I knew the training dates are coming out sometime soon, and I wanted to be like first to apply. And then and then around the January of this year, when I knew I was doing the training, I started doing a daily Nidra practice. And I've been doing that pretty much since January of this year. And it's been incredibly transformational for me.
It is. It's like rearranging. It's such a good way to put it. It's like completely cellular rearrangement. So let's back up a little bit, because you said you were super exhausted and tired. And I want to get back to the point where you had this epic moment of like, this shit needs to change. And you went on this quest. So let's go back to that moment.
Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, I came into recovery in 2013, and, obviously, my first year was just insane. Like, I didn't drink and use no matter what, but a lot of the spiritual elements were a little lost on me. And then I had a mentor in recovery who sort of introduced me to meditation, and, I did that for a while and didn't really stick. And Nidra is kind of the first practice that like really hit me and stuck with me. And so going back to school sober was very challenging for me. I had been diagnosed with ADHD prior to sobriety and taking medication for that. And, I had a really hard time of like, what is this going to look like with like no drugs and no caffeine and all this stuff? Like, how am I going to navigate this when, a lot of my other peers have different tools available to them, that I no longer had. And, I tried to just kind of like power my way through it for the first few months and just absolutely ran myself into the ground doing that. And there just came this moment where I like came home one day and felt like I was just going to collapse. And I was like, I can't literally sleep for hours in the middle of the day. Like, I need a solution that works, that's in line with my new path. But also that like sustains this physical body, that like we all have to work with. And that's when I found that Nidra on Insight Timer, and it was kind of the answer to it fit perfectly into my new lifestyle.
Yeah. It's so interesting how suddenly the universe like plops down a little breadcrumb for us, right? And we're either awake enough to see like, oh, I want to take that little nibble, or we're not awake at all. But it's like, it's been there all along, And so if you look back on your life, what were those little breadcrumbs that were just kind of hanging out, waiting for you to be like, oh, I so want to try that now?
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I grew up going to Catholic school, and there was meditation introduced, but in a very different way.
Yeah.
Very
rigid, maybe.
Very rigid, and sort of, it was all like centered around these visualizations of Jesus Christ, which is great, and like might work for some people, and so I remember being like, I like this, like this is cool, like I like going into the church and having quiet, and like kind of getting to sit in my own, we each got to like sit in our own pew and kind of have our own space. But the direction that it was heading in the actual meditation wasn't really working for me. And I've definitely been the type of person that's, I feel like, really always been on a spiritual quest. My freshman year of high school, I had a religion teacher that had a profound impact on me, and I would stay after class and talk to him and want to learn more about spirituality or like debate things and kind of stuff like that. And so there was always this part of me that like knew there was something more and knew there was something deeper and was seeking, but there was this other incredibly self-destructive, dark, traumatized side of me that kind of kept me back from that light, and, even all throughout college and my darkest days and hitting my bottom, like I would still go to church, like it was the weirdest thing, and at that time, that was the only source of meditation or serenity or spirituality I knew. So I kind of kept going back there looking for the answer I wanted, knowing it wasn't really there, but knowing it was something in that realm, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like we're these spiritual little beings, right? And we come into this human form and then there's like all kinds of candy, like all kinds of things to, like, let's just try it all.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if you think of a little kid, right, in a candy store and they eat all that candy, like, or, Charlie and Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, right? Like it's very destructive, when we land and we have the great awakening of like, oh, wait a minute, I can't.
Yeah.
It completely cuts me off from the spirit, right? It cuts me off from the other spiritual beings. Like
totally.
It's really, really intense. So I love that the church was there.
Yeah.
And you knew to go back. Like, you were just like, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there and I'm going to hang out.
Yeah, totally. And actually, when I was first coming into recovery, the local church here in Santa Monica, a lot of the priests have worked with people in recovery, and like a lot of the stories were about sort of like metaphors about people in recovery and sort of what that means with like God or higher power always wanting you and finding you and like sort of always coming towards that light, which was really cool for me in early recovery to like go there and sort of have what I was learning in the spiritual realm of recovery sort of reinforced. And then meditation just sort of found me over the years. I had a story for a long time that like I couldn't meditate, I have ADHD, I'm hyperactive, I can't sit still, I can't do this. And I think that's why Nidra has been so powerful for me, is that when I lay down, I don't have to think about sitting still like I do when I'm sitting, like the way that I'm able to just completely surrender and have zero effort involved sort of takes that hyperactivity right out of the equation for me.
Yeah, that's such a good point, that I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. My mind is racing.
Yep.
And Nidra has a way of like massaging that to sleep.
Yes.
Like, just like, okay, just going to massage you to sleep right now. Good night.
Yeah.
It's pure magic. And for, listeners, you guys know that I'm in long-term recovery, And, I've had a practice for a couple of decades. And when I found the Yoga Nidra practice, I, like Elsa, had this like, what? What is this experience? Mm-hmm. And so it became almost addictive. Was it addictive for you?
It's definitely something that I like want to do every day, and don't want to miss. And I can get a little bit like I need my practice. And and I mean, like with anything, it's like I can grab onto this and then not get anything done during my day because like I'm just meditating all day long, you know?
Right. I have a girlfriend in recovery who does that. She's like, I'm just doing meditation today. And she just goes right through the whole day. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? She's like, I'm in it. I'm like, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. That's it. It works. But there's something about like what's happening with the brain, right? Like calming down, changing the neural peptides, just really resetting the whole body. I think that's one of the things that I love so much about this practice. And let's get practical for a moment, because there's a lot of ladies listening who are, super busy. Yeah. And super hyperactive and stress balls, right? Like that's the world that we live in, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you carve out time, or how are you doing your practice today? Like how are you carving it out and making it happen?
Yeah, totally. There was one of the Astro Nidras that was meant to be done at night before going to bed, sort of to transition into the dream state, is the Pisces one. And that one was actually super powerful in helping me carve out time for a daily practice, because I go to bed every night, and it was like just something to put on kind of before bed. Mm-hmm. And it just fit very easily sort of into my schedule. And so that was kind of the one that started the like really firm foundation of the daily practice for me. And I think knowing just how deeply restorative it is, and how, like 15 minutes of Nidra is like an hour of sleep, like just knowing that I can wake up an hour early to do this because I'm getting even more deeply restored through this practice than I am even through sleep. And also knowing that if you fall asleep in the practice, it is okay.
Yes.
And like, I think that's the biggest thing too, is like, sometimes I would be like, well, I want to wake up early to meditate, but then I'll just fall asleep during my meditation and I can't do that. That's like against the rules, of like in my mind of what sitting meditation looks like.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've been practicing this for quite a while now. And like, sometimes I'm completely awake and alert for the whole practice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I can't remember past the right side of the body on the body scan. The miraculous thing to me is that I always seem to, even if I do fall asleep, wake up as the practice is ending, like pretty much almost always. So I know that I'm hearing it, and I know that it's working. So for me, when I can, I do love a 30-minute nap at the end of the day, or in the middle of the day. And so I've replaced that with Nidra. Mm-hmm. And if I know it's a day where I can't do that, I'll wake up early and do it in the morning. And the morning has become my favorite time to practice.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I just like, I'm up at 5:15. Like I forget it. It's like gold time. Cannot miss it.
Yeah.
So do you have a special place that you do it in, or do you just do it in your bed, or do you go somewhere else, or?
Yeah. So for a while I was being more diligent about, building a little bed on the floor and having the yoga mat and the bolster and all that kind of stuff. In all honesty, I live in a studio and it's a small space, and so having to like build and break down that little Nidra bed on the floor every day was just like not working for me anymore. Right. So I've started doing it in my bed, and a lot of times I'll do it on top of the sheets with a blanket over me, so it doesn't feel quite like I'm like under the comforter ready to go to bed. But that really works for me. And it also is just the most comfortable for my sacrum and different things. So yeah, the bed is the Nidra spot.
Right on the bed.
Yeah.
So easy, right? It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
amen to that. Have you had any profound spiritual moments after a Nidra? So you have the Nidra, right? And then you go about your day and then you realize like, oh, this is related.
Totally. I'd say the most recent example is, I'm in the stage of my life where I'm sort of breaking away from my parents finally, completely.
Mm-hmm.
And, they definitely have an expectation of what they wanted my life to look like. And I'm going in a completely different direction. And
So let's back up right there because
Yeah.
let's tell our listeners, because I know your story, but our listeners don't. So tell the listeners where you were going with your life.
Yes. So, I went to USC. I majored in economics. I thought I was going to pursue a PhD in economics, and then the math was just insane. So I decided not to do that. But the plan was for me to get a 9-to-5 corporate job in some business setting. And then last year, I started this journey of a bunch of yoga teacher trainings, and that's morphed into Nidra training and breathwork training. And so, I feel in the core of my being that all of the suffering and pain that I went through in addiction and mental illness and all the stuff for the beginning of my life is so that I could heal myself and then share that with others and help others to heal. But I definitely don't come from the kind of family that talks about like your dharma and your innermost calling and and that's fine. Right. Like I love them dearly. It's just not a part of how they think about the world and, how they're not as in touch with themselves and what they really want and stuff. So, for a long time I was, sort of looking for a corporate job, but knowing that wasn't really for me. And I knew that I had to have a conversation with them about this, but I've been terrified. And after the Nidra training, I did a lot of work around this. And then there was one Nidra I was practicing that talked about being bound versus being free.
Yep.
In pairs of opposites. And I'll never forget being in the Nidra and feeling like I had ropes tied around my body, like being bound.
Yep.
And then feeling the just most freedom I had ever experienced in my life. And so for about 30 days, I was working with the Sankalpa, I am free.
Yay!
And yes, and it was so incredible. And I know that it was that work in that Nidra that gave me the courage to call them up and with my voice shaking and tears running down my face, be like, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing.
Yes.
And it was really hard and, it didn't go super well, but I am free and I'm in my truth, and I know that I would not have been able to do that without that deep work and with that same Nidra, with that same Sankalpa day after day after day. And so that's one example. There's many, but that's a huge one for me.
Yeah, that is so, I love everybody that I talk to has these epic shifts of consciousness as a result of finding a Sankalpa and doing it for more than one day. Right, really holding that Sankalpa in your heart. And for those of you who don't know what a Sankalpa is, it is the intention from your heart that is shared within the practice. It's like a whisper. I like to call it like a whisper. And just, oh my God, they're profound. It's really profound. Like you having that freedom. I know exactly what that's like because I've had so many shifts over the past couple of years with this practice. Let's see. Do I have anything else I want to share with you or ask you? Do you have anything else that you want to share with us?
Just practice Nidra. It's just so incredible. It really is, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this practice more and more. And just the creative process of writing it and sort of, putting yourself in the experience from that side has been really interesting too.
So that's what I was actually, we're going to have to close up very quickly here, but I do want to mention, the creative process part of the Nidra is that they are written by the guide. And Elsa is so creative. And in one of her Nidras, I it was thrown out of my body because it was so creative. But this process, again, is so deep that I want you guys to experience it. That's all I'm going to say, right? Because each guide brings their experience, their intuition, their spiritual process, their gifts, right? So each Nidra is really, really special. So if you guys want to go over and check out Elsa Offerings on the gram, or check out her website as well, and see what she's up to and where she's teaching. You're teaching as well in LA.
Yeah, in on the west side in Santa Monica.
Yeah. So make sure to reach out to her and say hi, and grab one of her Nidras, and maybe you'll get thrown to the other side of the room too. So good. So juicy. Elsa, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you, Lane. This was awesome. Appreciate it.
Don't forget, grab the app. Start your journey with Yoga Nidra today. Thanks for listening.
Coming Home, a podcast with Lane Kennedy.